p.m. This is the regular meeting of the CCSD59 Board of Education. It is February 19th, 2025. If I could have Secretary Eddie call the roll, please.
Zach.
Present.
Eddie, present. Johnson.
Here.
Kitzinger.
Here.
Notini.
Here.
Sager.
Here.
Chesney.
Here. All right, next up, Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next up is we move these ahead of the presentations moving forward. Comments and suggestions from the public. Is anybody here? Anybody signed in? Okay. Do you want to go? What's the first name? Okay, first we have Faye Costa.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here following up on my previous email regarding the necessary steps to build a comprehensive.
Didn't turn it on.
Oh, I'll start over. Good evening, everyone. I'm following up on my previous email regarding the necessary steps to build a comprehensive and effective school resource officer or SRO program. Thank you for your prompt responses. And I appreciate your commitment to publishing the program's goals, policies, procedures, and data collection so families can have access to this important information as we do to other programs that the district provides. I also want to thank you for the winter safety booklet. It's encouraging to see that the standard response protocol adopted from the I Love You Guys Foundation is trauma informed. Tonight, I'm here to offer a related safety initiative, one that supports and complements the role of SROs. SROs play a critical role in responding to threats, investigating incidents, and intervening if a weapon is brought onto campus. However, as the saying goes, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The board has expressed a desire to take a proactive approach to school safety. One way to do this is by incorporating the Be Smart educational program into the district's overall safety plan. Be Smart is a nonpartisan campaign launched in 2015 to promote responsible gun ownership and reduce the tragic consequences that can occur when children and teens gain access to firearms. The data is clear. Roughly 3/4 of school shooters under the age of 18 obtained their firearm from their home or a close relative's home. While the role of SROs extends beyond just gun violence, we know that, addressing firearm access at home is a critical component of any comprehensive school safety plan. Be Smart has already been implemented in other school districts, police departments, and health organizations throughout our area. At London Middle School in Wheeling, Be Smart had a table at parent night providing families with information and resources on secure firearm storage and responsible gun ownership. School District 211 supports Be Smart by including safe gun storage information on their website to provide families with critical safety resources. Geneva Community Unit School District 304 adopted a safe gun storage resolution, and I included one in my handouts for an example. St. Charles District 303 partnered with the St. Charles Police Department and Be Smart volunteers to host a bilingual presentation for families. Vernon Hills and Buffalo Grove volunteers have presented to 19 pediatric practices across Chicagoland, reaching families where safety conversations often begin. So there are two practical, immediate steps our district can take, which include, one, inviting Be Smart volunteers to speak to our community, and two, passing a secure firearm storage resolution to reinforce the importance of safe gun storage at home. As noted in the district's own safety booklet, safety is everyone's responsibility. Families at home play a vital role in keeping schools safe, and the Be Smart program ensures that the entire community is part of the conversation. Adding more SROs does not proportionally increase school safety. However, implementing proven strategies like secure firearm storage does. Finally, speaking of comprehensive safety planning, in the board policy manual, it does state that the safety committee should include parents and teachers. I don't know what the composition of the committee is right now, but if there is a need for parent volunteers, then in the spirit of, if you've read The Hunger Games or know of Katniss Everdeen, I volunteer. So thank you for your time and for your dedication to keeping students safe.
Thank you. Next, Allison.
Hi. We didn't totally plan it, but mine's also about the SRO program. Allison Upton Lopez. I have kids at John Jay and Holmes. First of all, thank you all again for being school board members. I like to start with a thank you first. I don't know when the SRO program's coming up for discussion again, so apologize that this is not a topic tonight, I don't think, but I did do FOIA requests on a bunch of data, so I thought I would bring back some of that data for you all. And I do know there was a suggestion for hiring SROs for elementary schools. So at some point it's going to come up again for you all. So thought the data would be helpful. I have it, might as well give it to you. I would suggest a more detailed, comprehensive analysis of the impact of the SRO program, because one of the things I learned in requesting data from all 3 police departments and 59 is that no one is collecting anything related to the SROs. The police departments know nothing about whether the SRO is involved in any incidents at school. 59 doesn't know if the SRO is involved in any incidents at school. So all I was able to get was, are police coming to schools, and the disciplinary data from 59. Both the responses basically said, SROs are there. So I do want to share a few of the trends that I noticed. I looked at Grove data for 2023 and 2024 in comparison to 2022 and 23. So last school year compared to the previous school year before that, when there was no SRO, and then compared Grove to both Holmes and Friendship for the same period. A few trends came up. Out of school suspensions went up 73.9% for that school year compared to the previous, and they decreased at Holmes and Friendship. In-school suspensions also went up. Disciplinary incidents also went up 69%, and they decreased at Holmes and Friendship, same period compared to the previous year. On the 5 essential school survey, the piece around student safety responses, their responses also decreased by 4 percentage points, again, at Grove, over the previous school year, when the scores increased at both Holmes and Friendship, although they're kind of abysmal at all 3 of our junior highs, FYI. Arrests were at the same rate for both years, 13 at Holmes. Police calls were the only metric that did decrease by 31%. I'd guess that the police calls decreased probably because SROs at Grove were handling some of those things. So police didn't need to come to the school for that, but you could certainly inquire more. Just wanted to share that because that does not suggest a safer school environment to me. I encourage you to look at the data yourself and request data from 59, request data from the police departments. I'm happy to share this and my giant spreadsheet that I made in analyzing all of this. The only thing that I want to ask is I think we're all here for safer schools. I think 100% of everyone who shows up to these meetings want that. We all want our kids to be in schools where they feel safe, where staff feel safe, and where families feel safe. And I just want to encourage you all to make sure that decisions are grounded in that goal, and that it's grounded in the data about whether schools are safer. And the decisions about programs are grounded in, are those programs making schools safer? Also, like my friend Faye, would be happy to participate in anything where you would like another opinion. And thank you again for all that you all do. I will leave.
Thank you. Do you want to email that to us, the stuff that you got? Thank you. And then can we give you one of these, copy one of these? Can you make sure? Okay. Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to address the board tonight who didn't sign up? Okay. If not, we can move on to the recognitions and presentations. The first one is the winter benchmark presentation. Mr. Luboff.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here. Happy to once again share overall some pretty positive data from the fall to the winter. As I always try to remember to do, I want to thank Tricia Senni and Corey King, part of the assessment team, because they're a huge part of putting this together and really putting a lot of data in the hands of our staff and our schools. But with that, we're going to jump right in. This presentation is based on the, I think, 60-page report that's also attached or linked. Just trying to break it down into some key pieces. Of course, ready to talk about any of the slides or anything we want to get into. So just as a reminder, our strategic plan goal dating back to the 2019 timeframe where that came together talked about student growth and achievement with a KPI of 80%. So we want at least 80% of our kids at the 25th percentile or higher. And that's really based on if we're there, that one says our system's working, and two, we can address most learning in the classrooms, and then outside of the classrooms, address those remaining pieces. So this is the last, I guess, 3.5 years of our KPI. The green is reading and the blue is math. You can see the journey we've been on. As we talked about in the fall, you saw, especially in math, a big shift that is connected somewhat to the norms changing for iReady, but shows you where we're at and really on that path. And honestly, especially in math, starting to get at that capacity point, at least we're starting to see that. Okay. So here is reading. Fall to winter, we saw a 1.9% increase in Tier 1. You can see a 1% decrease in Tier 3 and a 0.8 in Tier 2. So the reality is we had a nice increase. Kids are moving into the green is the best way I can describe it. I like to share this slide because it really, one way or another, every kid in the district's going to be in this slide. So you're either free and reduced or you're not free and reduced. And you can see then how that breaks out. Multilingual, yes or no. IEP, yes or no. One thing we've updated, this is based on some great feedback from Ed Services last year, is really focused on that cohort piece. So that those are kids that were here in the fall and then are here in the winter. You can see we've had an increase of kids who now have IEPs. So just trying to break that data out to see how things go over time. But you can see every one of these demographic areas saw an increase from fall to winter in the KPI. This is data based on requests from the board that we've started sharing out through this process and really related to EL programming. We do try to break it out and not just EL programming, but include monolingual also by every grade level. So you can see monolingual, ESL, dual language Spanish, dual language Polish, and then that group of students who are native English speakers who are also in a dual language program. So you can see most of the areas saw a nice increase from fall to winter with the dual language Spanish group leading the way as a district and really having 3 areas, 3 grade levels that saw double-digit increases. And you can see a number of other programs saw double-digit increases also. I think an important piece to pay attention to this, I guess, would be the monolingual. You can see every grade level, I think the lowest is 85%. What that would say is for our monolingual speakers, our system really is working well in reading. And the math will be very similar. And you can see we're at different levels across all those, but seeing nice increases for the most part from fall to winter. When the groups are a little smaller and there's 30, 40 kids in a grade level, 4 or 5 kids can swing that to a huge increase or a pretty huge decrease. And some of those might play out as you look at the data.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What year are we with the new dual language curriculum?
This is our second year.
Second, okay.
Second year of reading for both dual language and for our general education program. So let's talk KPI for math. So saw a slight increase, not a big one, but did see a pretty significant, from my view, decrease in the Tier 3 group. So we're down to 8.5% of kids are in Tier 3 in math. And this is, as we've seen over time, had some nice growth. I do think we're getting to that kind of limit. We want to get to 80%, but we might see that growth very small as we continue to move forward. This again is the slide that basically breaks out through the demographic groups. You can see some increases, a few decreases. But again, a lot of the data is very strong. That former multilingual group in the mid-90s. Really strong. Our female and male data, super strong, very consistent, which is nice to see in math. A lot of times you'll see a pretty significant separation between males and females. So again, a good indicator of the system and the impact. Then that same slide in relation to our EL programming. few areas that pop out where we saw some decreases, but overall, again, seeing some very positive data. I want to highlight the dual language Spanish again. Every grade level saw an increase. 3 of them were double digits. And you can see in some of the other areas, monolingual overall, pretty solid. Everything's in the 80s and 90s. So we're really in a good place. You know, it's interesting. We talk about, and if you look at the ESL group, you can see in the early grades, you see a higher percentage. And then over time, we see that start to decrease. Some of that's due to potentially longer term ELs, but also the reality of the intensity of language over time. All right. So now let's talk achievement. So when we talk the norm piece, the KPI piece, that's how we compare to everyone across the nation. Now, when we talk achievement, you're really talking about a criteria. How do kids do? And that's why you see those different areas of mid and non-grade level. Hopefully I'm going to do this right. There we go. Ben, I still don't know why it. Never mind. So the mid and on grade level early on, 1 grade below, 2 grades below, 3 grades below. You know, I have a pretty significant reflection on this. We've been sharing this data this way for a long time. And we, in my reflection, should have probably used the parent language. So if my child came home and was 1 grade below, it would say approaching grade level. If they were 2 grades below, it would say needs improvement. We've used what iReady would call the internal language, which I think has led to, oh my gosh, look at those numbers. Totally agree. We would be concerned about those numbers, however we name them, but it does stand out in a different way. And I appreciate the questions because it really helps as we think about how we put data together and share. But as we look at this data, you can see where we were in the fall. There we go. So in the green, we had about 28% of on grade level or early on. And as we get, here we go. As we get here to the winter, we're now at, I think that's 41%. So we saw some nice increases. When you compare it to the state and nation, we're a little bit behind, and we have been in reading, but it's something we're definitely on track with, especially when we start to look at some of the nation and the being behind in grade levels. So making some nice progress and continuing on the path we've been on for a while.
So what's the last column? Is the national?
So that's the updated national norms from when they redid the norms. These were the percentages in those updated national norms.
Question about those norms. We're talking about when you're saying norms or Illinois national norms, we're talking about average, right?
So here we're talking about achievement. So I guess the best way I can describe it with the norms piece, as they look at that data for all kids that took the test back in 22, 23, the average, that's fair, of 27% were mid or on grade level. So in that testing iteration, it's interesting, and maybe this is where you're going, Dr. Sager, is that's the new updated norms. You would expect the national to align with that now, and it's not. So what does that say about these last couple of years as things have been changing? Prior to this, we would share the 18-19 norms, but wanted to update that piece. But yeah, basically it's the average. It's fair.
And do we have any other data on average versus 80th percentile?
Not when we talk about achievement in this piece, I don't have percentile pieces. When we talk like the KPI piece, then we'd be looking at a national norm of where kids fall in the percentile. Versus this is really about achievement. This is a criteria. How many kids met that criteria? I was looking at something today, a driving test. You have to get a certain score to pass. That's the criteria. You can get a 70 and pass, or you can get a 90. You passed. If you don't hit that, you don't pass. That's the criteria. The norm is, how do I compare to everyone else? And where do I fall into that mix? That's the KPI piece. And maybe this will help a little bit. We use this in the fall to just try to explain and build a little bit of understanding behind norms and those grade level placements. So this piece is what the slide we just saw. The percentage of kids in District 59 at those different grade level placements. This is how that aligns with the norms and the KPI. So when you see that 70.4% tier 1, that's basically the above or on grade level, at grade level, and the approaching or 1 year below grade level. So all of those kids fit into that mix. When you look at tier 2, if you're 2 years and below, and even a little smidge of 3 and below fit into that tier 2, and then the rest of the group is basically 3 years and below in tier 3. So when the reality of that, and then we know with the norms piece, that really guides our intervention process. So where we get a chance to grab those kids and support them and work through, but it just provides kind of that side to side with the different pieces of data. So this is the grade level proficiency results, achievement over time. You could see back to 3 years ago what it looks like across the board, how it compares to Illinois, how it compares to the nation, and then where we are this year. So we started at 28%, now we're at 41. And you can see where Illinois and the state and the nation fall into the same mix. Very similar to actually exactly where we were last year. This is the opposite. This is great if you're 2 and 3 or more behind, how we started back in 21, 22 and ended, and then where we are today again. Started at 36, now we're at 27. You can see how that falls then for the state and the nation. Pretty aligned in regards to the decrease in the amount of kids at those levels. This slide, we wanted to share this slide. Again, it's related to all of the programming for English learners we have in the district. Please keep in mind there are kids in likely multiple categories up there, but we wanted to break things out by each grade level band and the different programs that are available to kids. Denied services, that it's not a program, it's a parent saying, I don't want my kid in a program. We still have to track those kids, they still take access, they're still identified that way. And then you can see how that data, so the green data basically are the improvements, the increases, being on grade level or right at grade level from fall to winter. And then when you flip to the other side, you can see the other piece. And then basically you can see the decreases, basically all, I think, except for one, saw a nice decrease. And we saw nice increases pretty much across the board for all those groups. So again, showing kids are growing. Kids are growing as a system. Kids are growing by these different programs in different ways, clearly, but we're seeing some nice progress and some decreases on the back end. Which then got me thinking, based on the committee of the whole, there's a question about that ESL group. So that 6 through 8 group in the fall was 76% of the kids were 3 or more below. Now we're at 65%, which is a nice decrease, but definitely something we continue to work on. So I wanted to just share a couple slides to help hopefully build some understanding around that. So here's that same slide as we used before. So this is the 3 or more below, 65% of the kids. Of that 65%, 7.2 are actually in tier 1. They're at the 25th percentile or above. 43% are at the 11th or the 24th percentile, so they're in tier 2. And then 49.8% are in tier 3. So about half of the kids 3 or more grades below, 6 through 8 ESL, fall into the tier 3 category. And I guess the piece to explain that, to go with that, is I worry the assumption is if you're 3 or more below, you're automatically tier 3, you're super far behind. You're behind in the criteria, not necessarily as far behind in the norms. And honestly, even of that 65%, half of them are IEP or newcomers who we're working with and we have plans for. So the reality of how the data is impacted by different groups, it's something to think about and keep in the back of our minds. Then at the same time, over the last 3.5 years, what have we done in relation to especially at the junior high, both intervention in general and for our English learners? We updated the schedule so we could actually do interventions during the school day. Then they updated it again to make sure we could do interventions for both reading and math. The first iteration, it was one or the other. Now you can do both. There's flexibility. Kids can move in and out. I attended Grove's 6th grade end of quarter review where they had kids coming in needing intervention and a number of kids moving out. They can review it, new schedule, move on, need an intervention, new schedule, move into intervention. We added literacy and math intervention staff to the junior highs. We didn't have them there before. Our literacy and math content teachers actually teach intervention and WIN classes. So the content experts are leading some of that work and working with kids. And also on the other end of kids trying to extend learning. We researched, purchased, and provided training with new curriculum and continue to do that. Our intervention staff meet very regularly, review data, share feedback, have professional learning to build on the program. So the reality, especially for the junior high, we did not have an intervention system just 3.5 years ago. And now we do, and we continue to modify it and make it better. So we hope to continue to see the impact, especially we know the longer you go into the system, the farther potentially you can fall behind. Then at the same time, on the EL side, English learner side, we've updated the ESL model of delivery. We increased ESL staff in the ELA blocks. So the reality of people teaching are certified in ESL to help support our kids. We added newcomer resources. We added ESL teachers. We have a newcomer program. We added curriculum. And even as we work on that access process, all staff are involved in supporting kids through that process as they complete the test. So a lot, from my perspective, a lot has happened to go exactly to that data. Because we want kids, all kids, to be on grade level. We want all kids to be in the 25th percentile or above, but we've been working on that piece for a while, and a lot has happened. And then this last piece, yeah, it was based on your question. Last piece, so unfortunately, iReady does not provide us with data on like EL programming to compare to, and I assume that's because every program is different in every state. But this is part of the report, but pulled this slide out because it's based on our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, their data compared to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders in the nation. So when you look at 6th grade, we had 581 kids, the nation had 815,000. So how do we compare? We started the same, we grew a little bit more. Started a little ahead, lost a little ground, yet I'm assuming they moved to here. Have a few more kids in one grade below, a lot less kids, or a few less kids in 2 grades below, and a good percentage less than 3 or below. And then you can see how that flows across each grade level. So we go to 7th grade, when we look at the 3 and below, we started at 37, now we're at 30. The nation started at 39, now they're at 35. When we look at 8th grade, we started at 41, now we're at 33. The nation started at 42, and now we're at 37. So as I look at this piece in reading, we're outpacing the nation and kids being behind at the middle school. So that tells us our system's having the impact we want it to do. That last slide on intervention, I think, really has had an impact on our kids, and we're still building and working into that piece. This is where that data helps to understand when you can compare to other parts of the country. I think iReady has got 30 some states that are involved. So you get a good idea of how do we compare. It's not good enough on the back end, but at the same time, we compare well or better, which tells us we're on the right path. All right, math. So I think this is year 3 that math is for District 59 has outpaced Illinois and the nation in regards to kids on grade level. We continue to do that. We're actually we're at the national norm for at least being mid or on grade level. And you can see how we had some nice increases from fall to winter and are really continue to move along quite well in math and in a pretty good place. Interesting with math, we're comparing the nation to about over 8.5 million kids in that system. So you're talking a good body of to compare to. This is that same slide again, just how when we compare norms to the criteria piece and just how it shakes out. It's not perfect, but it does align enough that, I think our assumption is for the most part, if you're 2 or more years behind in grade level, we're providing you an intervention. It's not perfect, but we're pretty close. Here's the achievement piece, the on grade level piece, our growth over time. Here's the reverse, the 2 and 3 or more below. Over time. Here's our EL program math achievement results. So again, you can if you look at both kind of bookends, are we growing in the on grade level? Yes. And are we decreasing in the below grade level? Yes. We want to keep moving those kids. Since we talk a lot about intervention and the impact, we want to share a couple slides on that piece. So this is our provision rates for this winter. You can see we're at the highest we've ever been. We've got 93% of kids who are eligible for intervention are getting one in math, 94% in reading, and 100% in behavior. We started way back here. We were at 35 and 49 and 65%. So that intervention system and the board, again, I talk about this all, you should be patting themselves on the back because you supported the staff to make that happen. And of course, then we had the whole system working behind the scenes to make those recommendations and put things together and get the programs in place. We likely will never get to 100% in reading and math. And I'll give a good example. When I was at Grove that day, they had a child they were discussing, stay in intervention or not. And the teacher said, well, I have her in intervention, but I also have her in class. I think I can meet her intervention needs in class. And now she can take art, and she loves art. Because otherwise, when we have multiple classes, kids lose an elective often. So this allowed her to get an elective. Numbers-wise, she could have stayed in, but they made it probably the right decision for that kid. And the teacher knew the kid and said, I can meet her needs in my class. Pretty neat. Yes.
Could we jump a couple of slides back? Sorry, I was trying to make heads and tails of one more chart, I believe. There we go. Am I reading this correctly? Winter to winter, our 2 and 3 below actually increased from last year.
Yes. So last year, sorry,
because everything else has a nice
21% of the
Yep.
kids were 2 or more below, and we're at 22% this year. Yes.
Is there anything specific that we might point it towards why the trend reversed on that one?
1%, I wouldn't call it a trend. If I had to make any assumptions, I would tie a lot to actually our volume of newcomers and kids just coming new to the country, being new to the U.S. And, honestly, we have them take this test. We've started discussions, should they even take the test? Is that the right or fair thing to do? I would attribute that's the best thing I can that stands out as different. Something that's different. That's been a growing number over the last couple of years. And we'll see where we end up in the spring, hopefully below that 16% where we were last year.
Thank you.
In terms of intervention provision,
Yes.
are most of the cases like you described where it's a kid who's on the border and an individual decision is being made, or what other kinds of circumstances would there be where a kid is not provided intervention?
Yeah, I'll start to answer and then I'll look to Katie. But the reality is I also attended an elementary school. Everybody at the end of the quarter, after these data pieces, go through every kid in intervention and talk about not just that one data point of the test, what other information do they have? We do tons of progress monitoring. So we're really checking on the skills and are they growing or not. I sat in at a meeting where a kid was at the 45th percentile. And the intervention teacher said, I don't know that he's ready yet. I can make it work in my caseload. We don't have another kid to replace. We make those types of decisions. Yes, it could be now at the 26th percentile. And you know what? Based on numbers that they're going to move out. It's an individual kid, individual school. They really work through that together as a team. At that elementary school, it was the principal, the interventionist, we're meeting together as I mentioned at Grove, it was the principal, assistant principal, the interventionist, and the entire 6th grade team. Every 6th grade teacher was there talking about those different kids because they were able to bring in different perspectives based on things. At the elementary, after they kind of went through a preliminary discussion, then they met with every teacher to talk about, does this make sense? Continue, not continue. It's a complex, very data-driven, but beyond 1 percentile score.
Excellent.
Every once in a while, I get lucky.
So when we're talking about the intervention and provision rates,
Yes.
In this period of time that we have on this chart, did we change any methodology for how we allocate when there is a need?
Yeah. So 2 years ago, I think we're in year 2 now, we actually really moved to a more need-based 3 years ago, I want to say we said you get one math interventionist and you get one reading interventionist at every school. We just allocated equally. Then we developed a whole system to allocate based on need. The board increased some of the intervention FTE, so made that a little bit easier. And at the same time, then we allocated based on needs. I believe we just went through a process to already talking about next year of possible shifts of staff based on need. At the same time, then we look at some skills might be the wrong word. I would say some of the language skills. I know in our last meeting, we talked about we've been fortunate that we've recruited many staff to fill some of our dual language classrooms so that we now have bilingual Spanish and Polish staff out of the classroom serving in intervention roles, ESL resource roles, newcomer roles that were veteran classroom teachers. So that also helps balance and maneuver some of these pieces.
And I remember that, which is great to see that here. Now, what about the methodology for when there was no change in methodology for when the students qualify for the intervention?
Yeah, that structure has remained pretty
The same.
similar.
Correct.
Thank you.
I think we were here just trying to transfer or provide a little more understanding when we talk numbers, just numbers of kids in the system, how many we're servicing across the board. So that number is decreasing. It'll never go to zero, but the reality is when we can get into that sweet spot where we can address needs in the classrooms and then the other needs outside in a very effective way and efficient way, we'll continue to move on the path we're on.
So reading this correctly, we might get to the point where, hey, now great, we're at the point where we can actually utilize interventionists differently to help those that are only 2 grades below. Or am I reading it wrong?
I think we would likely consider how the format of use of interventionists changed. So that may look like more of a push-in model. You know, we have some interventionists pulling students out. We have some interventionists pushing in, providing more differentiated supports within the classroom. So yes, we would absolutely start looking creatively at what is the next need and how do we best meet that need with our interventionists.
Good to hear.
Good question. So then these last couple of slides, so we do monitor our intervention growth rates. Our goal is 4 percentile points increase as a system from fall to winter. You can see we're at 3.5. You can see how that played out over the last few years. We're right pretty similar to where we've been in the winter in the past. You can see the spring looks a little different. We'll see where we end up this year. We track it as a system. We track it as a school. We track it at grade levels and even at programs to really help the process and understand what's working and what's working best. So that's reading. This is math, very aligned. I think that's it. Questions? Other questions?
Tom, I sometimes get questions where, because you give us the full report with, I don't know how many slides, a lot. And then you present this one. Is there a place where like the public can find the full report?
Yeah, so the full report actually is included with this, and then will go out as part of the board report. Okay. So they'll be able to see the presentation and then easily access where you'll see things from schools, more detailed on the programs and different things. As we've shared in the past, more of a summary in the presentation piece. I will say in those 51 slides that follow, there's 244 data points. That are outlined there. 184 improved or 75%. Out of 4 data points from fall to winter improved in the full report, which obviously, as I always like to finish with, goes to the staff working in with our kids in classrooms, in interventions, in support roles, in specials. Our school leaders, our district leaders, and everyone continue to have a pretty strong and positive impact that I'm lucky enough to get to share. Other questions?
So I just want to say thank you to our staff as well for the great improvements over the past several years. Math has been going on now for 3 years, reading 1 year so far. And I just want to call out the good work of staff. And we talk about the interventions like a slide, but that's days and hours of work with students. So that's all represented
It's a great point.
Boiling it down to a number is kind of tricky.
It makes it difficult. I agree. And understand we have interventionists, but lots of interventions occur in the classrooms where teachers are doing a lot of tier 2 intervention, behavior intervention, all these pieces. It's a team effort. And it's just neat to see when you work that hard that the reinforcement is there, that there's some positive growth and impact. But always room to grow and work.
And then are we going to be looking at the Stanford education data?
So we're doing some research on that. You may recall there's this Stanford and Harvard project where they look at data across time. This year's iteration is new in the sense of how they're presenting the data is pre-COVID data loss or learning loss from 2019 to 22. And then they're comparing it to post-COVID increases, 22 to 24. Our math data looks very similar. Reading looks different. I'd like to understand better why. We're still in comparison to local districts where we were last year, but somehow their structure is looking at the data in a different way. Still in a very positive way. Math is showing a 0.8, almost a full grade level above the national average. Reading's a minus 0.15. So basically right at where it should be, right at the national average. So the data looks good. The system's different, and I want to make sure I understand it.
Yeah, I would love to maybe sit down with you at some point and talk about what's different from last year, because there were some interesting points in there, but things have changed.
Things have changed, and every iteration they change things. One big difference is went from 30 states to 43. And now from like 8,000 districts to 11,000. So you're bringing in other districts' data that weren't there before. So it's, I think, having an impact. But yes, I'm happy to share. It's been something we always enjoy looking at because we look pretty good there too.
I just wanted to add that I look forward to revisiting the MTSS criteria. I'm excited that we, might be at the point where we can start looking at that. I know I had indicated that was one of the things that I think we should be working on as a future goal. So just wanted to make that statement. Thank you.
We'll cover that at the next meeting, right? We'll have a discussion on that or presentation.
We'll have a presentation on that. And I do think that what we're seeing here is a reflection of the work of MTSS, as well as our which encompasses tier 1 as well. When we look back, Tom, if you could just jut back to slide 3 for me, since you're still up there. The slide's still up there. When we say that our data and evidence are showing that what we are doing is working, this is like the slide that captures it best for me, because we gave ourselves strategically with the district, the board, our schools, our staff working together to say, how do we get to a system that is sustainable at a tier 1 structure that allows us then to best serve in tier 2 and tier 3, which is reflective of our entire MTSS as a system. And this is amazing growth. I mean, it really is a reflection of, I absolutely, it's our staff, it's our students first and foremost, because they're the ones taking these tests, and it's a reflection of their learning. It's our staff, our teachers, it's the administrative team, it's our building leaders, it's our district leaders. It goes to every facet of everything we do. It's the technology that is in the hands of our students. It's the transportation that gets our kids to school each and every day and home each and every day. It's the food service that feeds our kids. It's so collective and reflective of the work of the system as a whole, which I think this is why this is such the core of what we do and focus in on for our strategic plan. Because ultimately, if MTSS was not working, we would not see this. And I think a great question that you asked, Lucas, is ultimately, we've kind of adopted that motto 4 years ago. You cannot intervene your way out of a tier 1 problem. So what did we do? We put a lot of reinforcements into tier 2 and tier 3 so that then we could focus in on tier 1. And now we have those two things working in tandem. And that's where the magic is happening in my review. It takes a lot to get to this level of analysis of the data. And then our schools that drive down into the individual student level data, the programmatic level data, the classroom placement level data. It is a collective effort. That's why we work on professional learning communities. I think all of our goals are really focused and evidence of this work. So super proud, and kudos to our parents, everyone who is a part of ensuring that we're moving forward together.
Okay, thank you. I think back to you. Monthly updates.
Okay, so just some highlights from the last month to give you some updates. So we had an e-learning day last week due to the weather, the anticipated weather. We appreciate everyone's patience. Again, it takes an entire system to make sure that that happens. And we really appreciate the positivity of our staff and prioritizing safety. Obviously, we bus a lot of students, and when we have anticipated weather, we know we're going to have staff who are at home to care for their own families. We know that we are going to have potentially issues with getting kids to and from school. So appreciated everyone's efforts to make that day a success. And we're going to knock on wood that we don't have to do any more this year. There were 2 monthly reports that were given to the board, and just to highlight a couple pieces from our long range facilities planning, that is the strategic planning aspect of it is well underway, and we'll get into some more details a little bit on another slide. But we met today with our architect as well as with our demographer to really begin kicking off how we're going to a timeline and plan for that long range planning process. And then we also provided a report on an update on our dual language assessment goal for this year. We're very excited about the announcement from iReady that they anticipate the Spanish assessment to be ready for next year. So there will be a webinar, I believe, that they will be participating in tomorrow. So we'll have more updates next month in that report. And then just wanted to also highlight the continued opportunities that I have, as well as my counterparts across the local area, have to collaborate. We collaborate for all of our districts that feed into District 214. We collaborate across our larger North Cook suburban districts. And that's really where we can gauge, what are we doing? What are we working on? That goes back to our e-learning days and our emergency planning. We are in constant communication to make sure that we are kind of on the same page and in unison so that we can remain consistent for all of our communities. So accountability and assessment, you just heard a great deal about that, but we also have another area, our 5 Essentials survey. That is our state required climate survey that staff, students, and parents participate in every year. It then becomes a part of our Illinois State Report Card accountability piece. That is the most consistent longitudinal data that we have reflected for the climate areas as identified in that survey. It is now open, but the state had a couple glitches they're working through, but we will be sending out communication to our families on the 24th to notify them of that. The window, I believe, is a little shorter this year, so we do want to make sure we get as much participation as possible. And I believe it's students 4th grade and up participate as well as all staff who are rostered through the state. So it's a great survey and really gives us a good, steady reflection of how our climate is doing from those stakeholder groups. We are preparing for our state testing, which will occur in March for the science assessment, March and April for the DLM, which is the alternative assessment to the IAR, and that will take place in April. So all of our schools are really busy preparing for that, ensuring our students are ready to perform their best. And then we have our Institute Day taking place on April 1st, which is also Election Day. So that provides us the opportunity to still be polling places while not having students in session. So lots of planning in the works for that, as well as already kicking off our summer professional learning planning for all of our staff and opportunities for them to participate in their professional learning. From business services, as I mentioned, Wold and RSP is our demographer that the board approved last month. So we had our kickoff meeting this afternoon. So Mr. O'Connor, Mr. Ludloff, myself, as well as Mike Eichhorn and Allison Andrews from Wold participated with Robert from RSP to really outline how will those two partners work in tandem to provide opportunities for data collection and review, as well as community engagement opportunities that we will kick off in September. So we have a target date with RSP to get the data collection portion completed by about May. And I've informed both of our partners that we will have regular opportunities to present to the board to ensure that all data and potential solutions are reviewed and an opportunity for the board to really be a part of that process. Additionally, we are looking at potential mobile classrooms at John Jay as a possible solution. We already have some in Mount Prospect at Frost, but we are at capacity for John Jay, and so we are looking at exploring addition of mobile classrooms at that site as well. And then Brentwood is moving along very quickly and on time and on budget. It looks amazing. SLT had the opportunity to go and do a site visit, and we actually got to sign a beam that will be permanently in the interior of that building. It is looking amazing. Wold and Nicholas have been great partners. We meet weekly to go over that update. Board has access to the weekly updates of pictures, which is exciting to see. But those are a couple of pieces of progress for that project that's going on. And good news, I know this was a concern before we began, but Dr. Barrett has really said that there has been really almost zero disruption aside from loss of playground space. But right now it's too cold to really go outside anyway. So it's been great that they've been able to move forward quickly with that work. Curriculum and instruction. So summer school planning is well underway, as we talked about a little bit last month. So our locations will be at Holmes and Forest View. The dates will be June 9th through July 3rd. We are in our second year of using our new updated curriculum, which really takes a more interest-based approach to the academic supports for our students. We're going to have a new curriculum for grades 6 through 8 in reading and math, and then continuing to offer our enrichment courses, as well as utilizing our varsity tutor program as part of our summer school offering. And again, just more ways that we really work to identify students who are below grade level and giving them another opportunity for learning to occur over the summer. And we're working on that staff recruitment as well.
I have a quick question about that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
When we reviewed last summer's summer school, we talked about maybe getting updates from staff who are teaching our kids, just what they're doing each day. I mean, it was kind of a concern just to know like what they're doing in that 4-hour span, you know. Is that something that we can look forward to, just knowing what their day-to-day looks like?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's on our list. We're going to have like a page at a glance for every class so that parents can kind of see something very simple, what they're learning each day. And that is a number one goal for us this year to improve. That was like top on our list.
Whenever you do presentations regarding summer school, can we get an update on varsity tutors and how that's going?
Yeah, and I know we've also included some varsity tutor data within the board weeklies as well, just because we're tracking that data and usage too.
I could give like a really quick update. We currently have like 8 of our elementary schools using varsity tutors regularly with rosters of students. And we have over 300 sessions have taken place in the last 3 months. So it's kind of like a snowball effect. We get used to it. Buildings are getting familiar with it. So we have more and more students kind of enrolling and using it either a couple times a week, a few times a week. And now we have some students using it after school as well.
So like if somebody goes on, like my son ended up going on a week that he was out sick because he can't get on to any of the websites that like the district has, like the World Book and stuff like that. So we ended up talking with varsity tutors. So do you get that report that a student, went on, or do you get a specific report that a John Jay student? How does that?
Yes, we get reports. We can dive into it and see who's gone on. And we have a list of what they're doing, what their goals are, and how many days a week, what time. So we have like a couple ways to measure that.
But even like my son who doesn't specifically get tutoring or interventions for it, he just I was trying to figure out what websites to even use. So him and I went on it. So that was somehow like
Yes,
he's
I
not
think
part
you're
of any
talking
of
about
the-
more like the live, like
Yes,
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 we are
yes.
getting those as well. Sorry, there's different
Yes,
ones. There's
sorry.
like the scheduled, and then there's ones that you can go on live and access lessons. And that number is a little slower right now, but we are starting to see that uptick too.
Is the idea that varsity tutors is used at school or after school as opposed to at home, or is it both?
Yeah, so it's both. We have guidance for buildings to use it. We've given them a range of students who could qualify. They can use it during the school day, during small group time. They can also use it after school if a parent partnership would like to do it, like 2 days a week. We actually have a few students doing that currently. So they log in at home twice a week, getting specific skills instruction. Yeah, virtually.
Are the skills that they're getting recommended by the teacher like to varsity tutors so that they know what?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's the teacher team that designs it and sets it up, writes down what they need, and then varsity tutors pairs them up with lessons, and it's all prepared by varsity tutors.
Okay. Very good.
And then we're able to track categories of students, like low-income students using the program.
In terms of demographics right now, I have to take a look to see if we can do that. But right now, we're looking at just numbers of students, numbers of sessions, and what they're accessing.
Because it's funded out of Title I.
Yes, but we are able to use it for all of our students based on our Title I grant.
Are junior high students using varsity tutors as well?
They haven't started quite yet, but it's very much on our radar to begin using it during our seminar period in our new schedule next year.
What about with our students who are several years behind? Is there any thought in using it?
Yes, our junior high principals are aware of the access and availability of it, and so the grade level teams would be referring students to that. So that's just another layer, and they're like not yet they haven't yet got students on, but they can do it anytime they want.
Can parents just choose to use it?
Parents can choose to use the just the quick chat live sessions. If a parent feels their child needs tutoring, they should reach out to their child's school so that they can figure out what they could use, how they could use it, and they will partner with the parents to set up a plan.
Okay, so the parents have been notified that that option is available.
Yes, we've been sharing varsity tutors flyers throughout this year as we've been getting up and running.
I think we're all very interested in varsity. So if sooner than later, if we could have some kind of maybe presentation regarding how it's going, that would be great. I don't know how the rest of the board
And
feels.
how it looks, maybe we can see like visually how it
Yeah,
looks.
sure, no problem.
Okay, so if a parent is concerned that their child is behind in some fashion, and they go to the school and they ask that they could use varsity tutors, can the teacher then just put those lessons, like you said, like recommendations on varsity tutors that the child can then do at home?
Yeah, that's how it would work. They would meet, first of all, the parent would discuss with the teacher, they would discuss with the team, the admin, they would have to meet certain criteria.
They do
So are
have
they
to,
within
okay.
a certain range? And it's really that range that we're looking at with our benchmarking update. Those students who are approaching grade level, might not be getting an intervention, need the extra boost. That's really the target audience right now for varsity tutors.
Mhm.
But then the teachers, it's very, very easy to set up. Now that we've gotten used to it, it happens very quickly. Usually it takes about a week or two, but then once it's up and running, it's going very smoothly.
Very good.
So, TR, will you just, is that something that we should add as a presentation for
I
next
think,
month?
no, I think maybe in the summer. So what do you think? In the summer, so they have like a full, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. The Kindergarten Council has continued their work, and they're actually going to begin their action planning phase in March and in April. So looking forward to the culmination of their work that they've been doing throughout the year. And then we are planning our district literacy nights, similar to how the kindergarten nights were run. So April 14th, 15th, and 21st, they will take place at each of the 3 junior highs. So excited for those opportunities to welcome families in for literacy night. In terms of human resources, we are well underway with our certified evaluations and our deadline of March 1st for many of them. So you can see the numbers there. That is keeping many of our district leaders and building leaders very busy with those formals, informals, data collection, feedback opportunities, and conferences with staff. And then our staffing for 25-26 is well underway. So we've identified where our openings are based on retirements and enrollment, as well as getting those postings and recruiting efforts beginning this month. And then we, as you have been kept informed, we are in our collective bargaining process with both certified and ESP. We are spending many nights together and enjoying each other's company and progressing along quite nicely.
Can I ask a question about the recruiting? Is there any way the board can get a list of our recruiting efforts, like what schools we're going to, what events we're at by date?
Yeah, I'll put that in the board weekly.
Thank you.
For student services and support, we continue our efforts around our professional learning communities. So we are partnered with PLC Plus to provide professional learning for our lead activators and for our teams. So we continue that work, which is really an opportunity for our staff to talk about instructional practices around our student data. Intervention assignments, as we talked about a little bit earlier, are finalized for the 25-26 school year. Again, we use that winter data to identify our student needs and then make those staffing allocations appropriately. We just had our behavior intervention committee prior to this one, and we will have our second meeting for the broader community on March 12th at 6 p.m. Cartwheel, which we have shared with the board previously, is our new telehealth counseling services, and we are starting to see students being referred for that offering. So excited to implement that and see how that goes and monitor its usage. And then our Director of Safety and Security, Director Malik, he participated and received certification as a campus threat assessment and management course trainer. So appreciate his expertise and what he will bring back to the district. Technology and innovation has been exciting. We had the Innovation Staff Advisory Team meet. They had presentations from both Apple and Google a couple weeks ago, and they really were able to explore the offerings from both of the different device options. And based on the feedback from that group and under Mr. Gray's leadership, they have made the decision or the recommendation to move forward with Google as our platform and continue using Chromebook devices. They will be piloting a variety of Chromebook devices, so laptops as well as maybe some tablets, Chromebook devices for different grade levels based on functionality. So we hope to get those underway in March to begin exploration and then building that recommendation for the board's approval. And then registration, returning students starts February 24th. New students starts March 3rd. Hopefully you have seen our yard signs out and about town. So please make sure you are spreading the word to ensure that we get those early registrations in, because that really helps us for planning for our classes and our staffing.
A question on the innovation technology. Are we talking only about devices or also what's on those devices? Because I'm particularly curious about some additional parental controls. I know got feedback from a lot of parents on ability to control what kids are doing on those devices at home. They have the ability to put in controls on personal devices, phones, personal computers or tablets, and having a Google Chrome from school, it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah, so at any time the board can revisit. When we first went one-to-one as a district, the board at that time, sorry about that. The board at that time wanted to have the devices available for students and families at home. So all of our acceptable use, all of our documentation, families sign off that filtering is a responsibility of the family at home. We have resources available to allow families to say, here's how I can set hours for my students' devices. Here's how I can set filters. If the board would like to revisit that and we want to put more strict controls at home, we can certainly do that. So if the board would like that, we can engage in those discussions. Absolutely.
You can set hours on their devices?
You can, so in like OpenDNS, you can set hours of which devices can access.
Oh.
We can also talk about strategies like making sure students are
OpenDNS
using it in an
like
open
the
place.
home router?
Yes, in your home network, yes.
So that, my personal opinion is that we're asking parents to become technicians. And I'm curious because I'm just thinking about it as like, from my work computer. It doesn't matter if I'm at home or at work or in a Starbucks. If I go into, I don't know, like just crazy guns.com, right? Or drugs.com or, cocaine, just crazy examples. I'll get blocked every single time. And that usage is going to get reported, right? Now, if I go into a website like, hey, tutoring.com, no problem whatsoever. So that's kind of, I mean, and it's not up to me as a employee or myself or parent to go onto my router and try to block it. So I'm sure there is some additional like levers that we can at least review.
Absolutely. So that's absolutely the point. So our devices at home have the most extreme categories are still blocked for students. So extreme images, sites like that, students still have that in place. Yes. But the previous board wished to allow families to use those devices in case they don't have another device at home. They didn't want the district blocking access to any of those sites, social media, because families may be using those devices for their own use. If the board would wish to pursue a different way, we have no problem pursuing different controls. We use Securely right now for at-home filtering. We can change profiles, we can change settings, but just understand we would do that for everyone. We don't have the ability to say, Lucas, you want this at your house. Nicole, you want this at your house. So we're going to it would be all or nothing. It would have to be for all students going home. So that's why the board said we would prefer to let families make that choice for their own family. But if we want to change that position, we have the tools to do that. It would be a board decision to do that.
Is there a way that we can get like a survey out to parents to see how many parents are truly using their child's device as their device? But I know like when it comes from the district, it isn't always filled out. So I'm wondering if, maybe at these different nights, maybe we can have, I don't know, something at homeschools or something like that.
We can seek feedback from families, absolutely.
Okay.
Is it possible to provide just some guidance, some in-person guidance for families on how to set up controls on their device?
Yeah, we have done that. We used to have family nights. We have resources on our website. We have documentation when families, when they go through the registration and the returning registration, families sign off in two different places that they understand that. And they also can go to resources that are on our website to find out how to do that. They can talk to their school, their building tech, to our tech department, to myself, to anyone. We're happy to set up and help them set that up. And again, some of the internet service providers often offer those tools built in. So for any of you, you may want, even a student that isn't one of our students, you may have a child who either is before school or is prior to our school age, or who is a high schooler. You can set these tools up with your internet service provider. It doesn't take, to Lucas's point, it doesn't take you being a technician. You have those, it's very easy on your phone. You can set those up, and you can set up which device on your network. You can set hours, and you can say after 9 o'clock, this device can no longer get access. I strongly encourage families to look at those options you have built into your internet service provider. Then we have other tools like OpenDNS, like other tools. If you want to get more specific about, you have different age levels that you feel are more appropriate, and you want to change that based on certain behaviors, you can set those up as well with your children. We're more than happy to help with any of
I
that.
do think families have expressed that they would like some in-person opportunities, like, and if we can announce it district-wide, this Wednesday night, we're going to be here, or, parents have expressed that.
We're more than happy to do that. We've done that, as I said, a number of times in the past. And perhaps to Nikki's point, anytime we offer a district event, we get about a handful of people coming, but we're more than happy to advertise that, to share that, to be available. We can do that.
And maybe just have a couple people, that are able to.
Sure.
Question about security. I know that there is an option. I don't know if it's securely or whatever, that parents can get email on the time somebody goes on a specific site, how long they've been on it, things like that.
I thought I pressed the button. Sorry.
Thank you, Brandon.
Does the district have that option currently that parents can sign up and get just kind of emails?
The current version of Securely does not offer home reports. We're actually meeting with Securely to look
Okay.
at some of their other insights that they have. It is something that we are evaluating right now. And you can also, for those who have students in the system, it's a great thing. I do this with my kids, is we talk about what have you gone on? And we look at some of that, the hours that they have, the screen time they have, the site categories that they have. And we just talk about what's the most useful for you. How are you spending? How many hours of screen time do you use every week? Every week we have that conversation. I think it's a really important conversation for families to have with kids.
So +1, thank you for that comment. I think personalized reports at the very least give the visibility for parents. So definitely a step in the right direction. I appreciate you looking into it. I have a question on, is there an opportunity maybe to, at the very least, maybe we don't have to purchase, but vet on what other options parents might have if they don't want to mess with their routers. I mean, I know, like, I don't remember my router's password or like admin password to do anything like that. But maybe I can use one of my apps. I mean, I know there's like a family link, right, that Google has. There's like, I have separate ones, as well, to something that can be used in addition for that personalized in-home use.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if it makes sense, although I'm guessing there might not be an opportunity since it might conflict with security, right?
It can be layered. Any of these solutions typically are layered solutions. So you can have one and it would not conflict with the other. But even still, if you have Comcast, you can go on the app. You don't have to access your router. You can go on your app to your Comcast app and set the parent controls for all of that. So we can put together a list of additional resources for families to consider and put that on our technology site and then start to share that out more widely. Absolutely. I can also bring this back to the committee to share with them too, because the committee is largely composed of staff members and classroom staff members, so they'll have insights as well. So I'll get their input in this conversation too.
I think parents would very much appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Okay. So next we have our consent agendas. Anybody looking at the consent agenda have anything they need pulled from the consent agenda? If not, I just need a motion to approve items 6.01 through 6.5.
So moved.
Second. Nikki, you ready?
on.
Well,
Yes.
It was Lucas than me.
Sorry,
Not
we're
used to the
learning a
order.
new, more
Soon to be efficient.
Yes.
efficient.
More efficient.
Yeah.
But I'm not used to looking at first names first. All right, sorry.
Any discussion? If not, can we have a roll call vote?
Eddie, I. Johnson.
Aye.
Kidsniger.
Aye.
Notini.
Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
Chesney.
Aye.
And Zach.
Aye.
And I don't know. Do I say that?
No, motion passes.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. 7.1, the approval of the board policies recommended by IASB. This is the press updates, right? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the press updates as presented on the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Move in second. Any questions? If not, do you have a roll call vote?
Johnson.
Aye.
Kitzinger.
Aye.
Notini.
Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
Chesney.
Aye.
Zach.
Aye.
Eddie. I.
All right. Next, we have multiple resolutions. Oh, I'm sorry. How did I miss that? It's the new system. We're all getting used to it. All right. Approval of resource allocations. Can I get a motion to approve the resource allocation increase recommendation?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moving second. Any discussion?
So this just basically moves Director of School Safety and Security from a 0.5 to a 1.0.
Anything else? Okay. Roll call vote.
Sorry, the one is not doing well. Okay. So did we do the first one?
Yeah. I forget who.
Sarah did first, I did second.
Oh, geez. All right. Kinzinger.
Aye.
Notini.
Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
Chesney.
Aye.
Zach.
Aye.
Eddie. I. Johnson.
Aye. All right. Motion passes. Okay, now we have resolutions for ordinances from each of our municipalities exempting our district from the Cook County paid leave ordinance. So you want to?
Sure. So all 4 of our municipalities have already voted and to exempt us from this. So this is, according to our attorneys, our belt and suspenders approach, where we are going to then officially accept their approval so that we are all fully exempt from this ordinance.
Okay, perfect. So first one is 7.3. Can I get a motion to accept Elk Grove Village's resolution or ordinance?
Second.
Oh, it's so easy when you guys are right next to each other.
Lucas and I could just do it all. The rest of them.
All right, we're going to do all those in favor. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Next up, 7.4, motion to approve the paid leave ordinance passed by Arlington Heights.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Next, we have the ordinance from the Village of Mount Prospect.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Making it easy on you.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. And then lastly, the ordinance from the City of Des Plaines.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Last action item is the approval of the District 59 Education Foundation donation to Holmes Junior High. Somebody like to read that one out?
Yeah, I'll make the motion. Be resolved that on the 19th day of February 2025, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approves the donation from the District 59 Education Foundation to Holmes Junior High in the amount of $500 for the SOAR and Explore program. Be it further resolved, the superintendent shall communicate to the District 59 Education Foundation in writing expressing the appreciation of the members of the Board of Education, and that this donation shall be listed in the official minutes of this meeting.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Move to second. Could we, any questions, discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, now we can move on to discussion items. We have a review of the pay bus fee for next year and then a mid-year review of transportation. Mr. O'Connor.
Oh, thank you. All right, Dr. Bresnahan, members of the board. First of all, I'd like to introduce the 2 people from behind the scenes that make everything happen. Once you see the statistics, you're going to say, what? How do they do it? Mary and Fernanda have been with us. How long have you been with us, Mary?
10 years in May, so
Okay.
9.5.
And then Fernanda, how long have you been with us for?
4 years in January.
Yes.
Yeah.
They do a variety of things, not just the routing piece, not just handling the phone calls. They will drive routes. They will ride routes. They will be liaisons for us in terms of just about anything you can think of. It's very, very difficult to find good work and good people in a position like that. So I just want to, ahead of time, the department wouldn't be the same without them. They're that good, and we're really fortunate. So once we talk about the information, I would like, if you don't mind, to hold the questions at first so you can hear and see the data, kind of soak it in, and then we'll be ready to go. So first of all, we talk about our relationship with Safeway. This is now our 2nd year. They are responsible not just for our regular education routes, but our special education. They're actually in Elk Grove Village, where they have a bus barn, and they are responsible for transporting our students who need a ride, who are 1.5 miles or greater, as well as if there's any designated hazardous crossing. They keep a lot off our plate, such as if you were to think about getting your own bus company, the mechanics, the insurance piece, the bus capital, the drivers. I mean, it's a whole different department. So it's nice that they handle that. But again, we have 2 liaisons here that actually help out as well and make sure that we run safely. So by the numbers, this is our district for a day. We have 3,686 students who are eligible for transportation, 307 routes per day. So that's reg ed, special ed, any sort of special times that we need, up to 2,691 stops. All right. Mileage, almost 3,000 miles a day. And the expense for our district is a little over $7.5 million. Just a quick piece. I know this is an overview, but when you look at that, the state gives us mandated categorical funding. Regular education is typically, it was 85%. They reimburse, it's down to 79%, and special ed is down to 69%. Now, we're trying to tighten up. The state has situations they're trying to figure out, but that's what they do. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to fund it, but at the same time, we do have resources and we try to allocate them to the best of our ability so that every one of our 6,000 kids are safely delivered and transported back and forth. And then you look at the average route times. Your morning averages, you have 33 students per route, 8.2 miles per route, and it's an average of almost 37 minutes. I will say this, we have the lowest in the area for students per route. When I did talk to my colleagues, the second lowest was 41 students. We do have one route that has 6 students in just one route. And that's due to a variety of factors that we'll discuss shortly. PM averages, it's 36.4 students, so it depends on what's happening, but 7 miles and 36 minutes there. A lot of that has to do when you look at the 7 versus the 8.2 miles, it's the route, the way things go. We have older neighborhoods, and sometimes you have a one-way road, or sometimes if you make one bad turn, if you've ever had that, and the traffic is bad, and now you're stuck behind someone, and then it's just, oh my goodness gracious, how am I going to get these kids home? This does exclude special ed and early learning routes, but I think this is another example for the PM averages. If you look at 36 minutes for our average, the area, again, for our districts is between 25 and 45 minutes. So we fall within the range, but we do have one route, for example, 71 minutes for 19 students. And again, that's an example of programming boundaries. A lot of situations that occur where if you think about it as a child being on for over an hour just to go home, that's pretty tough. So just something to think about. Also, the bus standards that we have, if you look at them, we required GPS, global positioning systems on them so that we know where they're at and when, which ties in with the Here Comes the Bus app. Also, we have cameras that are very effective at us ensuring that things are going well. We even will check them from time to time just to ensure that things are being run the right way. So we do an audit of sorts. We have child check alarms in each bus so that once the route is done and they're in the bus barn, there's an alarm that happens. So the driver has to go to the back, press the button to show that they actually did check the bus, and then they come back. And I know that sounds silly, but they also have a radio. That's supposed to get to the bus barn, and so they can have communications. It's a two-way radio. Mary, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. So the driver hiring process is quite exhaustive. First, you have to get a commercial driver's license or a CDL. And for us, for a student, it's probably about almost 2 months to get one. So just if we wanted to get a driver, you say you want to get one fresh off the street, it's 1 to 2 months. 15 hours behind the wheel work. Then you also have a 3-day class, fingerprinting. Then that comes back from a full criminal background check from 1 to 2 weeks. In the meantime, bus drivers also have to take a physical so that we know that they are actually healthy and okay with driving. And then they have to learn the assigned route. So between all of that, that's that's, again, it's quite a task, but we have drivers. We're fortunate with that. Safeway has been very good to us because of the risk we took with them, and it turned into something that is actually way better than we expected. So just having the drivers right now has been very, very helpful. There are also other factors into the transportation. If you look at that crazy colored Picasso piece there, that's actually our our boundaries. So if you look at the number of routes that we have, again, we have 307 that we run in a given day. It's because of all the boundary in the situations that we have. So when you look at, for example, when we're talking about John Jay and J Lo having longer routes, it's because there are times you're delivering students from the east side all the way to the west side. The number of riders also factors a lot in this transportation piece. Sometimes you'll have a lot of students that are going to go on one bus, but a lot of times it's not. Actually, the smaller bus amount of students on the bus is a longer route, because then you have to stop. Then you have to go somewhere else to get that person to stop. Then you're driving to another neighborhood for a stop. So it is a blessing and a curse that we do have the resources available, because it's very difficult at times for us to ensure that our drivers do have everything ready to go, because between the boundaries and where our programming is, it really makes things complicated compared to anyone else. The availability of drivers, we've been pretty fortunate with that, but I mean, there are instances when people call off, no call, no shows. It's just like that in any other, venue. So just something to think about, as well as the availability of buses. That's another big one. When there are those cold days, sometimes they have to warm them up and wait. But overall, I mean, they prioritize us over 24 square miles of our district, and it's quite a feat. Oops. That was the wrong one. Sorry. For the communication process, I think this is something that we're always looking at. Anytime a route is 10 minutes late or longer, it's communicated, but there's a process. So first, the driver has to notify Safeway. They don't talk to us because we're not their employer. So the driver calls up Safeway. Safeway then gets the information. Then they notify our team here. And then our team has to go to School Messenger to shoot that out to that particular route. Now, I forgot, how many routes did we have again? How many do we have driven on a given day? 307. That's one district. Then the bus barn delivers for all of them. So that's just something to think about. So if a driver's a no call or a no show, the driver's not going to notify Safeway, because where are they? We don't know, right? That's why it's such an important aspect of us to keep up with it, but also understand that it's not always a perfect situation. The other thing to keep in mind is that these two are incredible with the details. So for example, if there are certain routes that are run late or there are issues, we get credits back for it. So when you see that $7.5 million, it could be more. You never know that. But the problem is things occur. And Mary and Fernanda are definitely on top of that, making sure that we don't pay for a subpar process.
So those snow days when my daughter calls me 15 minutes without notification that she's standing and getting frozen on a corner, and me getting in the car and driving her to school, we get credit back for that.
Correct.
Because it did happen, and I think all of us got the feedback at one point for buses being late or having kids that were waiting.
Yeah.
And not to mention special education, know of instances, my own, of waiting for hours and then basically canceling, kids not going to school because, I mean, why halfway? And then the bus showing up.
Sure.
After you called in to cancel.
Yeah, and we don't pay for it. No, that definitely not. I mean, but that's also unacceptable. So that's something we always follow up on for sure. I can't tell you how many times I've mentioned with that.
But if the bus driver's not calling the company and the company's not calling you guys, how do we know that we're getting who should the parent call? Right? Like if this isn't happening, should the parent be calling Safeway? Should they be calling Mary? Should they be calling their homeschool? Like where?
That's actually in the presentation in a couple
Okay.
It
slides.
is. So, the challenges, that's one example, right? Like we're mentioning, there's the element of human error. There's an element of the cold or the heat. It doesn't matter, right? It happens. Another challenge is the boundaries. That's something that, again, I call it my boundary Picasso because of how many colors are around there. A challenge also, the early learning center. You're talking about routes, maybe a couple kids on them tops. Plus, they need BESIs to make sure that they're properly transferred, and there needs to be additional training. Our dual language programming, as well as our choice programming, is from all across that 24 square miles. So that's a different way to go about trying to get that child to school. Open enrollment students typically aren't, they're not qualifying for it, but when it comes back to the programming piece, the students do have that opportunity. Some classes, we've had them moving to other schools. And that's been something that I've never experienced in my 20-year career, but yeah, we need to move different programs, and it's almost like a jigsaw, right? That you can't figure out at the time. And the geographic structure as well, because of where things are figured out. And there is a driver shortage nationwide, and there is competition. There are other bus companies that try to steal our drivers. It's almost just a guarantee. So how are we proactive? Well, first of all, between Mary and Fernanda, what they do is they work with the bus company and they try and design it so that it can double up routes if need be. So sometimes you'll have, if a bus was missing or something were to happen, like kind of like Massetti was saying, okay, well, we know that the driver's missing or the driver called in, we can double up certain routes.
Is there any way to get to parents early identification on that? I mean, if we're having like today 10 degrees,
Yeah.
and you have to double up a bus, there's kids waiting on a corner for extra 15-20 minutes.
Mhm.
I don't think that's very healthy for them, and very stressful for parents, right?
Right.
While having a notification sooner, which I know I can hear the challenges, right? But maybe there's some ways to cut out a bunch of steps.
Yes, and that's something we are looking into. We still discuss with Safeway any sort of more efficient ways. Hey, what's happening with the drivers in the morning? Who's calling in? What's happening?
I mean, maybe there is an opportunity to, I don't know, automate the system, like basically saying, hey, the bus moved. So we know,
just like,
okay,
here comes the bus.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, the bus is coming, right? Versus, oh, the bus moved late.
Yeah.
The notification, stay alert. It might be delayed.
It's just like our GPS program. Here comes the bus that parents have an opportunity to download.
It doesn't work perfectly, right? I mean, I have it, and it's not always. I mean, I get a notification on,
Absolutely.
hey, the bus is moving. I mean, why am I getting it 10 minutes post the pickup, right?
Yeah, and I think the issue is that if this is the first time we're hearing it, then there's no way to correct it.
Well, exactly. But maybe there is an opportunity to actually use that GPS to, I don't know, get one step ahead, like proactively saying, okay, the bus is. I mean, I'm not saying the driver didn't show up, but maybe the bus broke, or maybe the driver did. I mean, is sick.
Yeah,
right.
Maybe
things happen, understandable. But I mean, at that point, I mean, if the bus is leaving the, how do you call it? The what? The bus barn. If the bus is not leaving it on time, here comes an alert. The bus might be late. Stay tuned.
For
right?
sure.
I mean, and I know it's a different approach, and it's maybe not even possible at the moment. But I will be throwing those ideas and demanding them of the bus company, because I mean, yeah, I mean it's nice and dandy if it's beautiful outside and the kids can just enjoy the weather and lay on the grass. But when it's freezing,
absolutely.
We need to find a way.
We will, and we will look into that. I know that they, for example, Mary and Fernanda do, every time there's a late route, they do document it, what it is, why it is, with the 99% on-time delivery rate, considering it's 307 routes. but they have it all documented as well. So then we
Which
do
is
it
great.
from there. Yeah,
Which
and so we
is
go
great.
back.
But
and
for that
so it's good.
1%, if we get an early notification or a way for the kids not to be stuck, that'd be
sure.
better.
Absolutely. And that's why my first piece is to implore everybody to first of all download the Here Comes the Bus application. You're right, nothing is perfect in life, but we can do our best. And I think that this application would be a perfect thing. Just for a plug and play, I'll just read it out. So you can, here's the setup steps. There's 4 of them. It's also on our website. There's the app at herecomes-the-bus.com. You can also go on Apple or Google Play. Once they're downloaded, type in the number there to access the student information. The school code will automatically link the student account to the app. Set up your notifications too, your preferred ones. Some people may not like it a certain way. We tailor it the best we can with this third party, and then there's a contact support there. Our team cannot do the contact support because it is your children's information. So just so you know, it's not like we can go in there and change it up. Plus, I think that would be kind of, it's an invasion of privacy. So that's not exactly what we're in for.
So I'm sorry, bombarding you with a bunch of questions. I know you love them.
Every day.
So that application, would it be recommended? And because I can't say if it is or not. Right? That's why I'm asking if it would be recommended for the kids to have it too. So I mean, let's say, hey, I mean, I got notification that the bus is within a mile.
Mm-hmm.
I better run, right? But I'm not sure what's the latency between the bus getting into within the radius, because it works on the radius, right, to the stop,
right,
and notification actually coming up to the phone. I mean, if
It's
this would be an accurate, or maybe the kid would actually get stuck with being late to the bus.
Maybe, right?
I would say when it works, it's pretty
Yeah.
accurate.
At the
When it works.
at the beginning when we first got it, it worked perfectly. Then there was some tweaks. I emailed after you sent me that information, and I have to say you have to be on them because they fix the morning route, not the afternoon route. Like
Gotcha.
so you have to keep going back and forth. And, for some parents, they're not going to want to do that, but that's on their choice. And I think
sure.
that's where we have to give them that opportunity, and hopefully more take.
Absolutely. And here's the website. If you want to, it's on the business services /transportation, who to call. So let's say where your whereabouts of your student's bus, there is Safeway's direct number. And 84721. Okay. For the most direct and immediate help, you can always also contact our transportation department. I'm also here to assist as well. And then, of course, there's the information on the Here Comes the Bus app as well. So.
What is like the bus companies? There was one time that the bus came over 10 minutes early, which was great, except that my child wasn't at the bus stop because
Sure.
she's supposed to be there 5 minutes before to 5 minutes after. Should the bus company have stayed until 5 minutes before they took off? Like, is there a rule per se?
So our motto is never be early, randomly late. Okay, so no, a bus should not be early. And if it is,
Okay.
please report it to us.
Okay.
And we will make sure that that driver follows our route times that Fernanda and I coordinate.
Okay, perfect.
And these are all good questions. Transportation it's a nightmare. I mean, not now. I'm just saying in general, transportation can be.
How about we get to the celebrations, Ron?
All right.
Let's talk about some good news. And then Mary, maybe you could provide some more details on some of those questions.
How about you do the celebrations, Mary?
In doing our fact checking, putting in all of our information, most of our routes are on time, 99% of them. So unfortunately, there is that 1% that 1 or 2 days may be late. Since we've switched to our new company, because we have the drivers to provide the services, we don't double up routes like we used to. I'm sure some of you that might remember, we were doubling up quite a few routes because we did not have the manpower to cover them. Our cold days, our coldest days, our bus company was there. You know, we had, I think, 5 buses that were late that because they broke down. Unfortunate, but in general, these last 2 days have also been very cold. We've had very good days, no late buses. So those are our good celebrations.
Yeah, and to speak to that, there were some districts that had to close on the cold days because they didn't have bus drivers or functional buses. So I think that's a testament also to Safeway and the partnership and prioritizing our routes, which was great.
+1, very happy to see that. I'd be curious just for that to show the magnitude of how important this is, to compare it to what we had a year, 2 or 3 before. Just curiosity. If we don't have it, I'm not going to be screaming for it, right? But it would be good to highlight the importance of how good we're doing.
Do you find that when there are hiccups, that they're happening mostly on morning routes?
Yeah, morning routes would probably be the time when they're happening the most. Why? Because there's that very short span of the driver not showing up to work and the dispatchers discovering that to figure out, okay, who's going to cover this route? We're going to print these route sheets. We're going to find a bus for this driver because the regular driver, I don't know, didn't show up to work. So yes, definitely the morning routes are the most challenging. By the afternoon, we have a grip on who's here and who came this morning and who didn't come, and we're going to check on that driver. So for the afternoon, for the most part, we're good.
Do you know if Safeway has a policy on when the driver has to turn on a GPS so that the parent can start tracking the bus?
The bus GPS turns on immediately once the bus is turned on.
Okay.
Okay, that's one thing that Safeway has told me, that they must not have turned on their GPS
The
before.
GPS is automatic.
Yeah, that's safe. When I called Safeway one of the times,
We'll
that
certainly
it just,
look into that.
Yeah, if you could,
but yeah,
that'd be
when the bus turns on, the GPS comes on.
okay. Thank you.
I really want to answer your question as far as the parent app. Once you set it up, you set up a radius, and that determines when it will let you know that the bus is in your radius. And that's something that you, as the parent, will set up.
I was actually being curious about even setting it up for my daughter, right?
Okay.
Like, so that, I mean, she doesn't stand out there in the cold. Maybe, she can have her jacket on or next to her, just waiting for the call versus being out there. Like, you know what I mean?
It's kind of a double-edged sword, because then kids get, they kind of chill waiting for that bus to come, and then they run, and Lord and behold, they missed the bus.
Well, that's why my follow-up was on the risk of, if there is a delay notification, then might not be as good, right? So that's why I don't want to be a proponent of doing it for anybody out there listening.
Right.
It's not a recommendation whatsoever. It's just curiosity on the accuracy and how quickly it gets. I mean, would it be so good that we can say it as an option versus we don't trust it 100% or within like even 95 percentile?
Well, like Miss Kitson said, when it does work, it works. I have a few kids on my account that I kind of follow, and it does send me a notification based on the radius that I set up. So.
I'd also like to add that there have been times where a bus will break down in the middle of the route, and then the dispatcher has to automatically sub in their application, the new bus number. So then that's the only thing that may worry us, where your app might not refresh, because it has happened. I mean, on one of the coldest days a couple of weeks ago, we had a bus breakdown in the middle of a route. We had to transfer students to a different bus. So I'm not sure how long that glitch will take to update all parents that it's now in a new bus. So that's something I can add.
They manually have to go in and change the bus number for the replacement bus, and that takes time to roll over into the app. So little glitches.
One thing
Yep.
that I have found on the bus app is that there was a time that I was like waiting, is it coming? Is it coming? And you could actually watch the little bus go. So if you wanted to have your daughter have, she could watch where the bus is and, go.
So I've had some issues like in the last couple weeks with the app. Definitely just go through the steps. Like I'm still having an issue today, but we've been in communication. I've been in communication with Ron, been in communication with Safeway. So it's kind of a process. But I mean, I think you guys have been pretty helpful and I appreciate that. And, but I understand parents' frustration too. Everybody's stressed in the morning, right? We're all rushing and whatever. But we're all also doing our best. So, it's not a perfect system. But I appreciate you guys being here and working as hard as you do. I know this is not easy. So yeah, I'll keep trying to be patient too.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Kitzinger. I think so this month is actually Bus Driver Appreciation, and I'm going to extend it all out to all of Transportation Services Appreciation Month. It is a thankless job. It's often like technology. No one notices it until it doesn't work. And I think the everyday 307 routes that are running and getting our kids safely to and from school, I think is a feat in and of itself. And we couldn't do what we do without you. So I want to acknowledge the gratitude I think that we have as a system. We likened it to anytime you travel, right? Like you expect your plane to be on time and it's frustrating when it's delayed. You want your Uber to be on time, but then they end up having to cancel. And we've all been in those frustrating moments. I think these two really sympathize and empathize with our families when those things happen. But the best thing that we can do, and what I want to encourage all of our families and users to do, please just communicate. The best thing we can do is, what is the feedback on that app? When is it working? When is it not? We cannot improve things if we don't get the communication about it. So first and foremost, we want to make sure everyone understands that contact information and how to at least report those concerns, get their most immediate needs met, but also, hey, just want you to know these things are happening so that we can work to make those better. This is the first year with the app.
Yes.
So we didn't even have it last year. So it's a step forward. And again, I know it's like our buildings when teachers have to call in sick at the last minute and a sub doesn't show up. We put that out and we don't have an app to share that with you, but the schools are frustrated with that. It's not a perfect system, but I think we do our best.
I would say too that if parents, like piggybacking off what you said, if parents contact Safeway, like let Dr. Bresnahan know, let Ron know, let somebody know that you contacted Safeway and hey, like this is going on. So I know they told me, contact your transportation department after 2 or 3 days if this isn't fixed. And that's when I contacted you, So we're all kind of working together, but there are steps to take. And yeah, communication is definitely key.
And I do want to say that we see Safeway as a team, and we work together. We have safety meetings. We meet with them often. So those things that you guys bring up to us, we certainly bring them up to them, so that communication, that open communication is very important. So call us. We're here.
I have a question. I'm sorry. It's nothing to do with any of that, with the app. It's just a general question that has come to me from several families in the community. My kids are not in the district anymore. But it is, if you are designated as not being eligible for bus service based on your location, it's like less than a mile from your home. I understand there is an option for bus service if you would like it. Like, let's say you have a small child who cannot walk to school by themselves. You can't get them there in the morning. I'd just like to understand how that works for paid bus service if you're not within the eligibility.
So we do offer our paid bus service. There are guidelines around it. One, there has to be an existing stop. We will not add an additional stop. It has to be an existing stop, and there has to be room on the school bus for that additional student, because free transportation is based on qualification, and you qualify if you live more than 1.5 miles from the school. Or
Sure.
if you live in a hazardous
And that's
area.
that's my question, I think, is because the student is, is within a mile, there wouldn't be a stop. There
Right.
wouldn't be a stop there.
Mhm.
So I just don't understand how this would ever work.
So I will tell you how it would work. For example, if Billy lives here and Johnny lives, closer to the school, the way it will work is if Billy goes over to Johnny's house and takes the bus there because, mom or whomever can babysit him in the morning and they can load the bus together. That's how it works.
Okay, I'm just hoping that at some point this board can just discuss maybe the idea of offering this for families, again, who have a kindergartner, first grader, who they can't walk, even though it's 4 blocks away, they're not going to go by themselves. They would be willing to pay for the bus service. If there's a way to, if there's room on the bus, and if it makes sense, the bus is already traveling down that street, could a stop be added? They're paying for it. Just wonder if we can explore that, just that
Certainly
idea,
explore it.
because I think a lot of families are impacted by things like that.
Yeah, I just, we transport more students than probably any percentage wise out of any district that I've been in. It impacts everything else we just talked about. So the ability to run on time, the ability for route times, all of that is impacted. So the more you offer, we currently free transportation to all choice programs, which is significant. So $7.5 million, even at the suggested rate, to keep the rate the same for next year, which is in the discussion item of $525. Adding those additional stops impacts service and quality. And I think that is what we have to weigh in terms of where you want to draw your lines. I think part of the discussion is what is a parent's or family's responsibility for getting their child to and from school versus what responsibility are you going to add on to the district?
Understood.
And those are good. Those
Understood.
are good conversations.
Just want to
to
have the conversation because I do think it would, be important to a lot of families, but of course we'd have to weigh.
Would circumstance make a difference if that family didn't have a vehicle or I don't know. I mean, I don't know the example that you're
There's several examples I've heard, but one is both parents working, and it's just the way the timing is they can't necessarily walk them to school or drive them to school. But if there was a bus stop right there, that would make a difference.
Since we're going to be talking about the pay bus fee anyway, do you know off the top how many families are currently paying to ride the bus?
9.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah, a very small amount. And a lot of them, I think most of them are because one of the siblings is in a special ed program and the other student, they're going to the same school. So, but one doesn't qualify because they're not in the special ed program. So something like that. And others just because they have a babysitter that they drop off the student at, and we can pick them up at an existing stop. We do offer kindergartners can live a mile, not 1.5. So our kindergartners, if they live more than a mile or more, they do get transportation. Okay.
Are you going to talk about the pay bus fee for next year
Pay bus fee.
or no?
Yeah, we wanted to keep it the same. Just keep it as is at 525.
Okay. Any questions about that?
Only
9 families are paying that.
Yeah, and it's divided into.
There's more that want to, but that's another discussion.
For sure, yeah. And honestly, if we did do the calculation, that number would be quite different. So
That's a deal, you're saying?
big time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. 3,000 miles a day is crazy. That's so I wonder, I'm sure this will be, I think this is a big part of thinking about different boundaries is the busing aspect of it.
Absolutely. Transportation is one of the tiles that we have been talking about, I think, for the last 4 years. It has significant impacts on a child. Like we said, the high end, 71 minutes. It's a lot. I think, too, is that a lot of it takes a village, right? Not just a school district. And I think how we can partner parents up, what other kids live in that area that can walk with the children, those are things that we try to encourage as well, because
And then I don't know-
transporting more students is it's already challenging as it is.
I don't know the timing of this, but like also early care, right? Some schools have like early, like, I don't know. what it's
Before school
called.
care.
Before school
Mhm.
care, yeah.
I was going to ask about after school stuff. I've been at Grove recently and I hear Mr. Elway, the late bus. Is that information included in this data that we got today for after school stuff?
No, that was not.
Okay.
But yeah, we're always willing to put that in like to the weekly or something.
I just love that you guys offer bus service after school programs, because I think it just allows for so many more kids to participate. And I just think that's wonderful.
And I believe there's also a bus for the before school programs,
Yeah.
like the student councils or like sports before school, right?
It was offered to all of our 3 junior highs, but right now it's currently only being used at Friendship. Oh, and Holmes.
Holmes has it, yep.
That's awesome.
Do we have percentages of students who are eligible to take the bus but do not? I mean, I see there's so many that get dropped off. So do we have numbers on that?
We have numbers of we have numbers of kids that qualify.
Yeah, but how many actually use it?
We wouldn't be able to know that, because some parents opt for the bus. I mean, they qualify for the bus, so they keep the bus, obviously. And we were just discussing that with Ben. But they figure sometimes they take their students to school, but then one day they decide they do need the bus, so they don't let us know.
Yes,
"I'm
that
not
used
gonna
to
need
be
the
me.
bus."
And then I talked to you and I was
Yeah.
like, let's just cancel the morning and keep keep the
So-
other one.
So
So
I wouldn't have an
Okay,
accurate
I
number for
understand,
you.
right? They're eligible, but they're not necessarily tracked whether they take it or not every day.
They don't communicate whether or not they utilize it.
You don't need to show an ID or something when you get on the bus?
Any student that qualifies for transportation automatically gets an ID with their
Mhm.
bus information.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, 9.0 is, sorry, normally this is where we give our reports. So we can certainly go through and do that today. And then also we're going to revisit our committees and our committee assignments. And then this section will turn into moving forward, where if you're doing committee work, so for example, the communications committee, you can report out at each meeting any updates you have. Totally fine to not have a report. Not all these are going to have a report at every meeting, and most of them won't have a report at but like one meeting a year. So, but it'll just give us more structure to how we conduct committees, and then also how we report it out, because it's our opportunity to report it to the community. And then if you have anything else you want to add, during your spot, like you went to a performance or something like we have been doing, you can still add that in. So can we pull up the committee assignments? Okay, so these are the current committees. We had for example, today, the Behavior Intervention Committee. It is anything in yellow here is open to the public. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. Open to the public and open to all board members.
Yes, they
Correct?
are board committees.
Board committees. So this is what we have now. It doesn't mean these need to be the only committees we have. It doesn't mean we can't get rid of these at any point. So I think what would be best, if knowing that all these committees, anybody can attend, including members of the public, we should assign the board member, like Michelle for finance and facilities. She should be in charge of that committee in terms of if you want to have a meeting or scheduling it. If another board member thinks we need to have it, they can go to you and you can talk about it.
Mhm.
And then we even have kind of like a process outlined in our board policy, like the process for calling, or, you know, you tell the superintendent you'd like to have this committee meeting, what you want on the agenda, all that. So Michelle, finance and facilities always been together? It has? Okay. I don't know.
Well, often, I think that was like when the last bond was issued, that's when this started. I actually remember that. This committee started when the last bond was being issued in the previous administration. And there was a lot of discussion around the bonds and the facilities and the needs and all of that. And that's kind of, I mean, I guess it could go together. I don't know that it needs to, but it's just that. But I would think with the long range planning that's going to continue to be an issue to talk about facilities, finances.
With finance, yeah.
I mean, facilities may not be relevant every time.
Okay.
Or finance might not be, but I think it makes sense to keep it together.
Okay. All right. So you're on that one. Behavior intervention. Does anybody, I mean, that's twice a year. Right. Okay. Insurance committee, I'll keep doing that one with pleasure. Are there any, these ones make sense? Does anybody want to be on any of these who is not currently on there? And these ones are typically called by you or?
Yes,
So
these are
should we just add
superintendent
ourselves in?
committees.
Because I'm curious about adding myself to the nutrition one. Because I
Sure.
have a very big concern with the quality of food. I actually do. It's horrible.
Go ahead, sure.
But am I right with this, with the superintendent committee meetings? Like, there can only be up to 2 of us
Correct.
because these are not.
These are
I
not
guess-
board meetings. yes.
Right. They're not open.
They're
to the-
not open meetings.
Mhm.
Is there a reason? I'm sorry. I was gonna say, is there a reason why they were like, for example, the safety committee? We had two parents here today, very clearly wanting to be a part of any sort of safety committee. Is there a reason why that couldn't become a board committee?
The Behavior Intervention Committee is also the School Safety and Discipline Committee. So those are combined if you look up at the board ones, and those are open to the public. The internal safety one where we go over like procedures, those are closed meetings just because we're talking about confidential information.
Okay, but I mean, just the discussions that these parents were alluding to, talking about SROs and things like that, and other initiatives, could those be added to that board level committee if that was of interest?
Absolutely. That one is required by school, by board policy.
Okay, I just want to address
The
needs of
Behavior
our
Intervention
stakeholders.
Committee and the Policy Committee are the 2 that are actually spelled out. And then the insurance is per our negotiated agreement.
Okay.
All the rest are not required, but you can have, and you can create whatever committees you like.
There's a lot of public interest around the SROs and other procedures. So you're saying we could add that to that school safety and discipline.
Yeah, I think if we wanted to talk about that in committee before we talked about it at a board meeting,
Mhm.
we would just call one of those meetings and
Okay.
anybody could come join.
So in March, people can come to that meeting.
Yeah, they could have.
Are you listening out there? If you are having, concerns regarding behavior or school safety or discipline,
Everyone
you
is
can
welcome.
come to that meeting in March 12th. I forget what day.
Any of those.
Yeah.
And we need to be prepared to have that conversation, right? We're not just going to ask them to show up, but no, that's good to know.
And then we put out an agenda just like we do for post,
Yes, those
just
all
like
get posted. Yep.
any other meeting. Are there any other board committees that we want to resurrect or that aren't on here that we have an idea that we want to at least put on the radar? Maybe we don't have a time we want to meet or anything, or
Yes, a curriculum and assessment committee. We've mentioned this several times. There's been some debate, but I just really feel that, it's an area that the board should be able to delve deeper in. And I'm not referring to like new curriculum, which I think always comes in front of the board and should be discussed that way. But just existing curriculum, maybe updates or work that we're doing or results, assessments, just a way to have two-way communication. Also, ability for teachers or parents or any stakeholders to join. I just would very much like to see that.
I agree. I think maybe like even if it was quarterly, like it doesn't have to be.
And even as needed.
Yeah,
But
right.
quarterly at the most. I have been a part of a committee like that. It morphed into a few other things, but the original purpose of it was very important, critical at a time when we were struggling with curriculum years ago. But I just think it was helpful in hearing parents' voices, hearing the administration and teachers. Well, actually, teachers weren't usually there, but I just think it was a very productive conversation.
Okay.
Agree.
Can we, you don't have to do it now, but can we add that somewhere? Okay, thank you. And then who wants to be the point person for that?
I could do it.
Okay, Sarah. And then while we're doing that, let's just make a point, even for like the behavior intervention, we can, want to put me for that? The behavior intervention one, unless somebody else wants to. Okay, Nikki can do it. Perfect.
Mhm.
Who loves policy?
You do. You're all about the insurance and the policies,
All
I
right,
guess,
I'll
huh?
do the board policy one. And then just remind, like anybody can be, we typically all go to any one of these, so.
Well, the board policy is dictated when we get the press
Sure.
updates.
Yeah, okay. That's fine. I can do that. And then if you think of one and then I think all of these can be as needed except for the ones that are like contractually or policy up. Okay. Anything else? You kind of understand it now? Okay. All right.
Wait.
All right. I think the only other piece on here was we will eventually next month, starting next month, have each of the committees, board committees, and I guess functioning superintendent committees that need reporting out on. I think I was just going to put the board committees and then the outside organizations.
Okay.
On the agenda. But this month, I know we wanted the opportunity to hear from our reps who are on the communication committee.
Yes. Lucas and me. Did you want to start, Lucas, or you want me? Okay. Yeah, so Lucas and I are on the communications committee, and Ben had asked if we can, just try to keep things moving, because there's a whole section of the communications audit, which is about the school board. It's mostly about our connection to the community, us being visible, transparent. And we did reach out to everyone on the board. We did get some responses, and there's at least two things that we'd really like to propose. And one I think is a fairly easy one, and that is we'd like to start having coffee with the board before each board meeting, starting with the next board meeting. And I'm thinking that it'd be great if it was the entire board, but I'll admit I can't even commit to being early for every board meeting. So I'd really, to not complicate things, I'd like to have it be at two board members, because then it doesn't complicate anything with OMA. So if two board members can commit to being, I guess it could be here. It doesn't have to be here. But I would think maybe to start with, it would be here because we're going to be here anyway, and hoping that whoever joins will join the board meeting as well. So we'd like to start that, and we just really would like the district's help in advertising that, right? I mean, I just think we can say it here, and but we really, if it can be announced officially in some sort of announcement to
Communication to
parents on
parents, yep.
Facebook,
We could
on the
probably
Facebook page.
put it on the agenda even, or like we had just a note that we were going to have the policy.
Yeah, but I think what will reach parents most is whatever social media that the district uses finds most effective. If it could just be noted there that two board members will be there to just talk about anything.
And I would note, it can actually be more as long as we are not talking together, right? We have enough room up front, enough tables up front to easily do it, right? If so, yes, if we can have two board members commit to come in 35 minutes early, maybe, I mean, if there is a big popularity, maybe more than 35 minutes early, right?
Let's start with that.
Yeah, but I think the
Say
35
35
minutes
or
that
45?
gives
35?
35.
Very random.
Oh, I'm throwing in a
Oh,
5
30
minute
minutes and then 5 minutes.
minute
Okay, I got
buffer,
it.
right?
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I think the key is though just advertising it so that families know and or family stakeholders too. That's the thing. It's not just for parents, it could be for the community. So is there any sort of social media that goes, well, I mean, I guess is there anything that's effective in reaching out to the community?
We hope so. Yes.
Sorry, I didn't
no,
mean to
that's
put it like
okay.
that.
I get it.
just
I
know
get
that-
it. Yes, we have a district Facebook page, and we do have at least a couple thousand people connected to it. So yes, we will share it on Facebook. We will share it on all of our socials. We will send
Okay.
out a email invitation. So we will activate all of our communication channels. The question I would have would be on, like, I think next month there's a 6 o'clock policy meeting. So does that mean you'd meet at 5:30? So would people want to come at 5:30 and then have to wait an hour until the board meeting starts? I'm not sure if you want to try to work around those meetings that happen at 6, or if you just want to have it anyway and see how it goes.
Yeah, I just want it to be a standing thing that this is what we do, and we got to start somewhere. It's not always going to be perfect, but I would like to start. So yeah, I guess 5:30, it would be 5:30 the
So
first time. And
the
then
standing would be 30 minutes before any of the board meetings, whether that's a
so
committee
the
meeting.
6 o'clock, we all need to be there. The entire board
I
needs to be
believe at the
there.
policy, that's the full,
Okay.
that's the full
Yeah.
group. So at 6 o'clock. So that would mean,
It's the behavior.
oh, so I'm sorry, the
committee, yeah.
behavior.
And
That's
so-
right.
and
Thank you.
s-
I'm sorry. Thank
Right.
you.
And sometimes I think we have closed session at 6 o'clock. I mean, I don't know that we want to change any of that. Those
No,
are
I think-
things
yeah,
that
no,
work for us.
I think assuming we're going to have something at 6 almost every, whether it's a committee meeting or, so I think if like 5:30 is the standing time to come chat with the board or whatever, 5:15 or whatever we want to do. I think that's good.
Yeah.
If you want 5:15, 5:30, well, which one works best? For the board members who are going to be here, we can advertise it, but we want to make sure that we have the time right when we start to.
Let's start with
do the camp-
5:30.
5:30, okay.
And if we
Plus
need more-
one.
And do we want actual coffee?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No false advertising.
We still have the coffee with the board sign, I believe, as well, at least one of them. So yeah, we can
I
use
mean,
some of
we
those
can stop at
supplies.
Starbucks on the way and pick up a box, Joe.
So so on nights where there is a 6 o'clock closed session, that would be a 1 hour wait time in between that and meeting, just FYI.
Okay. Although
Yeah,
I'm just being hopeful, thinking that whoever comes is going to stay for the board meeting. I mean, I just, be nice.
But I mean, if they can talk to us before, they don't necessarily have to, they're talking to us before, right?
Yeah,
Like
right.
one-to-one versus
I
just-
think the community just would like an opportunity to just talk directly to
Okay.
us and know that's an opportunity that they'll have at least once a month.
Something nice that an SSEO is doing is before or most of the meetings, they actually have cookies that students bake, which
Mm.
are, by the way, most delicious. If you have time and you want to come to the meeting, you might actually get a chance to try one. So just throwing it out there might be good for the community to more incentive to come in. But this is more of a comment. The question that I do have on the communications channels, do we have a route to communicate through our village communities, because they have their own channels as well? I mean, is there a connection that we can say, hey, here's what we're doing. If you guys want to, you can forward it to the community. I'm just curious.
We've shared communication, like when we have registration starting, they'll put them up on the signs. They have not sent them out. So we can ask again, but we have not had past practice where they have sent out via their channels. We have board policy. I'm sure many of you are aware that if someone asks us to send something out, they have to meet qualifications under board policy. They have to be a nonprofit. They have to fill out the materials, because we can't favor any one group. We can't be favoring a for-profit organization. So in this case, we're nonprofit, so we can reach out to municipalities and see if there's a way that they'll send out messages on our behalf. as
Whatever
well.
they can do. I mean, if it's posting, let it be posting. But I think it would be also part of a good spirit of collaboration, right?
Yeah, we can't control what theirs are, but we can certainly request.
Agreed. Yeah.
So are we wanting cookies as well? Is that what I'm hearing?
Only fresh.
Only
if all the
We don't have
students in the
kitchens to
different-
bake cookies, so just FYI, our students
did I see
cannot
you
bake
volunteer?
cookies for us.
Yeah, don't we have I know that we're finding some staffing issues
We
there,
can start
but you
small. We'll
know.
build up. Was that, what was the other thing?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, actually, just back to the first one. Is that enough information that are Ben for like 5:30 and
Sounds
before
good.
the board meetings?
Mhm.
And can I just ask too about the cookies? Is there any rules about like, could we bring cookies or do we have rules about it has to be store bought or something?
If it's not for students, we do not have.
It doesn't
rules.
matter. I could bake them and it's fine.
Adults
Sorry.
are consenting, so
Okay.
they can eat whatever
Got
they
it.
like.
Got it.
It's a month of diet before our first meeting. So I have two small ones. One is a sub of the first one. In addition to coffee before the meetings, an idea throwing back and forth that has been coming is the coffee with the board during school events to open it up to basically be a little bit more open with the parents. I think honestly, I think it's great, but it is an additional commitment in the middle, sometimes in the middle of the day. Is this something that board members would be interested in pursuing?
Are you talking about like a full board? Like
No, it's basically two board members coming to an event in during a specified event in school. Whether it
So-
be Holmes, Grove.
The one that we have, like the list that we already have.
So yeah, I'm talking about amending what we have because we're not basically doing it right now. It's not being done.
We're not going to every one, no.
And I don't want to go there. That's my first I want to ask a question if we want to continue it, and then I actually have an ask of our superintendent team to help us select events that would drive communication and conversations. So concerts, sports events, I come completely I think those are not the best because you will have one parent or two that will stop for a minute and the rest will be rushing to see their kids. But there are events in schools that are based on communication, like an open house, or let me see, I have a list somewhere here that I started writing out. Info session, open house, parent-teacher conferences, right? That's where there is a little bit less of a rush to get to that performance. And I see those as an opportunity to help with that communication with the community and parents. So if we're interested in it, then there will be an ask to help us select couple, right? Or the types. Not which one specifically, but the types. Because I try to go through our calendars and there's
Maybe we can have them think through which ones would be good, and then we can.
So that's
see.
kind of where we started, just for some background information. So we had schools put one or two things each that they thought would be appropriate. And then we were asked to put more events for more opportunities. So that's where it is now. And I think you're right, Lucas. We really we don't have people signing up for it.
Yeah, and there was just too many with lack of opportunity to actually talk to the parents. So I'm curious if we can just maybe get help from the team on selecting what types of events are happening, and just say, hey, those are the ones that you're thinking might be good, and then we can go in and say, okay, fine. What can we do as the board so that it's actually manageable? Because we already agreed coffee chat before the board meetings. So then do we want to go to 3 different types of events every quarter to every school? It's not going to be feasible. So that's why we need to start be very selective on where's the biggest impact that we can help with. So okay, but what do you guys think? Should we?
Yeah, I like the idea of parent-teacher conferences or like a math or curriculum night where parents are already in that mindset, wanting to talk to teachers, wanting to talk about education, the curriculum, and all those kind of things. So I personally, I don't know that those events were on the list. The parent-teacher conferences, I don't think were on there.
That's what I'm show of hands if we want to pursue, and if you want to pursue, then we can. going to be asking the team to help us out with the list of what's doable, right? And then we can cut it down towards what's manageable.
I like that. I think that Katie does you right in there, like low parent involvement, probably like low probability of being able to speak with a parent. That is on there a little bit. I think that teacher conferences would probably be hard because like parent. That would be difficult because we're probably conferencing at like the same time. But I think, yeah, their input would be great as to what events would be best. Open houses, I don't know what they do. I'm not sure. I don't know. What do you guys think?
So just examples.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's throw it open question in that case, and we can take it from there. Does does everybody agree? Show of hands, or
we can start there. And
Yeah,
see
I think if we have
how-
a streamlined list that is manageable for us so that everything can be covered, that would be, yeah.
Okay. So then,
and then maybe like for us to consider prioritize schools that we don't have kids at, because a parent can always find one of us at pickup or.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. Is some boards will do like adopt a school. The board, 7 board members, 15 schools.
Yeah.
You can each do 2 that your kids don't go to, or you promise you'll go to an event twice a year at that school, sort of thing.
and a second thing that that we discussed, so that was actually the second big topic, would be how can we as the board and as a district work better with our communities and villages, and the idea came along to have our community reach out team talk to the representatives from the villages to see what are some events where we can actually show up. I'd also be very curious if we can like have an annual meeting to actually discuss those events and opportunities to collaborate on better exposure once a year, right? And last but not least, I mean, I'm very curious while those conversations happen to see what other school districts, how are they collaborating with those communities, with the villages. Because I know I've seen at some Mount Prospect events or Agro Village events, so not Agro Village, but Mount Prospect, I did see some other school districts being present. So I think it would be, I'm curious how what else can we do? Because I know right now we don't really have the presence in those events that are being organized by the villages, which might just for the pure ability to help and even inside the community on, hey, listen, we have those programs, that programs, and you have this ability. We have the ability to send your kids to a dual language, or just like informative things that we keep asking, how can we reach out more, or early learning center, right? I think that gives us opportunity to really spread the word in a way that we don't do right now.
So just like be present at some of their events throughout the year,
like a summer fest or like a concert or something, like places where they would have their own booths anyway, right?
Yeah, like the celebration of cultures in Mount Prospect, which I think that the Mount Prospect
Perfect
admitted
example.
they dropped the ball, but I do think that is an event that we, not only would it be great if the board is involved, but our schools and our students and our teachers are involved. It's in our neighborhood. It's near Frost and Friendship. It's near the Recplex. And
we have a big mix of cultures in our district.
Yes, I actually spoke with the director of human services of Village of Mount Prospect. She was there. She was the one who apologized for not reaching out sooner, but she said she would be very open to having a meeting. And I think all of us board members, most of us are pretty involved in our communities already. If there could be some kind of meeting with each village with at least one board member and member of the SLT, and meet at the village office and just kind of talk about what's on the calendar, where can we collaborate.
So like I know, like for example, Elk Grove has like the play party picnic. I don't know if we're involved in that, but it's like it's back there. So if we, and there's all tables from like different, to like something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So first, the actionable first ask would be for our community reach out to the villages and see how can we get involved, what other villages are doing, how they're being involved, and maybe organizing like an annual like synchronization and collaboration meetings. To sum it up in 3 points, is that something that we can, if the board agrees, that would be an ask to Dr. Brasnan, to your team.
Yeah, I think just trying to balance out across, 4 municipalities along with
I
all
agree.
of the events that we plan, like what is the expectation for attendance? And there's 7 of you, but does that mean that all 7 of you are going to commit to something? And what commitment does that take, also from our teams? Just want to lay that out.
I think
Before we, find out all these ways we can be involved, like what is our level of commitment?
I think honestly, we all have to see what are the opportunities to then see what is the interest in the involvement. I mean, I know we've had a Agro Village invites board members to the Veterans Day or Independence Day.
Memorial Day.
Thank you, Memorial Day celebration. I mean, just things of this nature, right? We don't have to go in, but we don't have to show up, but it's great. And I mean, I've been to the one I could attend. I think it was a very, very good to represent the district. So if we have a list, we can then talk about it and see what we can do.
Yeah, and I'll definitely commit to the Mount Prospect Celebration of Cultures, which is in our district boundaries.
So what I think we can start with is working with our team, just do an outreach. I'll actually be, I think the Village of Mount Prospect is having something tomorrow morning that I will be at. Their State of the Village is tomorrow morning. So I will be at that, which was nice. I got an invitation, so I will be there. But what we can do is at least connect with all 4 and ask, where are there opportunities that you have other school districts involved already? Maybe start with that, and then where are things that you'd like to see grow?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That concludes communications.
Okay. Does anybody, now that we're still kind of under the old format, does anybody have anything they want to report out? We'll start with Dr. Sager.
Yeah, so the Educational Foundation was frozen out the last month because of the cold weather, but they are still accepting applications for mini grants from staff members and going through those. We saw the results of one today, the Holmes Junior High donation. And currently is open for students at former 59 students, their scholarships for graduating seniors at Elk Grove, Prospect, and Rolling Meadows high schools that are open to students who I don't know exactly how we determine their former 59 student, but a student who passed through 59 and is now a graduating senior at one of those schools. And the foundation is currently accepting applications for that through the application process is through the D214 Foundation page. So there's a D214 Scholarship Foundation page. If you have a student who's older, who's been through 59 and is at one of those 3 schools that we feed into, there's applications there. We do, or they do, one from each school for higher education, and one from each school this year will be for trade school or something to do with getting people started on their future careers. So those applications are open till March 14th, if I got the date right. I'm looking at Ben and
yeah, I'll have to check with them on the deadline when they have to have them in the process.
Okay, because they go through the Educational Foundation through 214 and then come to 59 Educational Foundation for decision. Yeah, all right. That's what I have.
Not a whole lot to say, but we've been in negotiations for quite some time, and really, I think making pretty good progress. I think we're working together as a big group and really collaborating a lot. So that's great to see.
For the D59 Education Foundation, I just want to say this: for outside organizations requiring a rep in May. I would love to be not the alt for that. I would love to be the main person, the person who does that. That yes, starting in May, I would like to just if you could add me. I just want. I have a couple quick things. The plant and flower sale is going on for all of. I think it's all of the Elk Grove schools, and it's the flowers are beautiful. I highly recommend people buy from it. The profits go directly to the PTOs, and that PTO, those PTO organizations are funny things that go directly to the students. So it's an easy lift for the PTOs, and they're beautiful flowers. So please buy. Secondly, I'm gonna be a broken record here and recommend anyone as a preschool student who is not currently enrolled in preschool, a preschool age student, please check out Play and Learn at Ridge and the ELC. It's a fantastic program and it is free to bring your child. So please check it out.
The only report I have is Nicole and I are going to visit Frost School next week. So, yep.
I don't really have much, but I do want to extend an invitation to any of the SLT or board members that Ridge is having their bingo night tomorrow night, and I will be there working the book fair, and I will give you a 20% discount if you come and buy books with me. It's my last book fair. Also, I'm retiring from book fair life, which I'll miss dearly. But yeah, please come if you can. It's from 5 to 7. It's on that list. If any of you want to come.
She's an excellent book fair lady. I just got to add that.
Okay, that's all.
So you're a bookie.
I am.
Very quick update on NSSEO. Just an FYI, NSSEO approved calendar last year. The reason I'm mentioning, in case you have any questions or come up, or any question would come up, it is being cut down this year. The NSSEO typically offers 85 hours of extended school year. Sorry, it is cut down, meaning extended school year is being cut down this year. They typically go above and beyond the state required 60 hours, but due to construction, they basically needs to be able to do construction when kids are not in school. That is being brought down to the 60 hours for this summer, with of course a hope that we can get constructions moving as quickly as possible. The second update, NSSEO is in the middle, almost at the finishing stages of selecting principal for their Kirk campus. As of last meeting, they had 2 candidates that were out to have their last conversations with their superintendent and a member of the board. And last but not least, strategic planning update. Last time I shared the new approach to having additional layer of governance with the superintendents helping guide us and the NSSEO. This is still going forward. There's details being planned out. I believe Dr. Schnorr will be sending additional details to Dr. Brasnahan within the next couple of weeks. Which then should be coming to me or to everybody here, and I want to make sure that this is being sent out to all, because there will be a vote, I believe, on March 5th. So I would like to get feedback, especially any comments, any feedback, any concerns that you might have on the structure, so it can be discussed prior to the vote.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's it. We just need we have hopefully a short closed session, but
You know what, TR, I forgot to mention, I don't know if this was part of the committee thing, but the long range planning committee, the steering committee that started, Terry, you given us some information. Just wondered if any board members could be on that initial steering committee.
That was not recommended by Wold. So there will be board when we get the actual committee. This is more the process of planning for that. So I specifically asked that, and they said no, they do not have board members at that stage.
What goes on during that?
So it will actually be our DEA president, Ann Wing, will be on there, as well as mostly it's our internal facilities and business people that will be on there to really do the timeline, planning the sessions, identifying, when we want to talk about programming, who are the people that need to present out on that, and then it's data collection. So providing that to the steering committee.
Will we get a little like updates on that?
Yeah.
as part
Oh,
of the-
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, can I have a motion to go into closed session for items A through F as listed on the agenda?
So moved. Oh, second.
Okay, I know where the second is.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we will, what time? You need time or no? When we come back? Got it? Okay.
I got this, but I need to.
Got it.